Welcome to The Grow Show, where we make it easier for entrepreneurs and leaders to grow their businesses. You'll hear from real leaders with real stories about their successes and failures so you don't have to make the same mistakes. We won't break out textbooks or talk theory, only raw stories from the front lines with actionable takeaways.
The Grow Show is sponsored by Heil Sound, world-class microphones for stage, studio, broadcast, and podcast. Find your sound at heilsound.com. And by Reggie. Are your outbound sales campaigns not driving the engagement you're looking for? Revenue leaders rely on Reggie.ai to write high-performing sales copy that cuts through the noise and books more meetings. Want to see how it works? Head over to Reggie.ai/GrowShow and learn how to put the power of best practices in AI into the hands of your sales team. Here's the next episode of The Grow Show.
I have a topic. Serious topic. Serious question. Be
something good in there.
You're gonna laugh at me. How hard should someone work this day and age? Everybody.
That's so good.
I'm telling you, everybody. It's different generation, right? COVID, I think it changed a lot of people. Mm-hmm. People want balance. We mentioned it when we talk about sales. They may not want to take X amount of pitches or self-source because they don't want to get to 150% of their income. They're fine with what they're making right now.
I have an answer.
Let's hear it.
It's my opinion.
Yeah.
I have an answer. At a minimum, as hard as they have to hit the daily result, no matter what, right? If they can figure out how to do that in 4 or 5 hours, great. If it takes them 12 hours, great. So it's up to them to figure out, quite frankly, how to get really good at the tasks at hand, to sharpen their skill set so that if they do want more time off, they figure out how to do it in a shorter period of time. My other thing that I would say is as hard as somebody wants to. So if somebody does figure out that they can do the job in 5 hours instead of 8 or 9, but they want to work another 6 on top of that because they've got huge goals and aspirations, then they should be allowed to do that too. I hate the work-life balance conversation. The book that we read, the one thing I thought was incredible at pointing out like that's different for everybody. Like picking the things you want to do, making sure that you do it before you lay your head down is different for everyone. Like some people say work-life balance, and then they go home, they're home at 6, and then they're completely unbalanced with their kids. They turn on the TV, they're not really spending time with their family. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a bullshit statement. Work-life balance is whatever that is to the individual. Some people, maybe they don't have kids, and maybe they actually want to work 12 hours a day because they absolutely love it. And then someone all of a sudden challenges them on their balance, but that's what they want to do. Like, so I guess it's hard to define. It depends on the individual. But if I've paid somebody an amount to get a job done, then they should frickin' work as hard as they need to at a minimum get done what our expectations are for the position.
So I think the answer here to me is people don't do, I don't think, as much back solving for their own life as they could. My answer to the question, which I'm going to get to, is you got to figure out what you want out of life. And that requires going and sitting and thinking about what you want out of life and back solving for that thing. So I'll give you my example. When I thought about it, it didn't make sense to me to work as hard as I could for a long period of time to have the freedom to do whatever I wanted at 70. That for me, I didn't get that. That didn't make sense to me. So I was like, okay, what I'm going to do with my life is I want to have the freedom to work wherever I want, to do what the freedom was the thing for me. And I want that at a very early age. And so my philosophy that I borrowed from somebody else was like, I'm going to do what others won't now in order to do what others can't at some point.
Yeah.
Love that.
That's what I wanted to do. And I also live my life in extremes. Like I do soup cleanses or I do McDonald's. I like run every day 5 miles or I won't work out for 6 months. So like it very much played into my nature. And so for me, it was like, okay, I know where I want to go. Like I think people skip the step of like, I'm going to sit in a dark, it may sound silly. I'm going to sit in a dark room for a few hours and really deeply think about like, I'm going to visualize what I do and don't want. And I figured that out. And I was like, well, I am going to work 12 hours a day. And I am going to work on the weekends because I know I'm going to do what others won't now to do what others can't when I want to. That's what worked for me. But I think the key point of my answer is, A, soup cleanses at McDonald's is a righteous way to go. I don't care what anybody says. And second, spend time thinking about what you want out of life and back solve for that.
2 things. One, I feel like that is the key that is not getting taught to this generation right now.
Hell no.
And I was lucky enough to have good examples when I started at Abstract of I saw people who put the work in and worked their way up, and I had that clear path. I saw it. I came in, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. Same deal. I've had this thing in my mind of like, I want to retire by 40. I'm not going to because I don't know what I'd do, but I want to be able to if I want to. I want to do what other people won't now so I can do what I want, what they can't later. I love that quote. Mm-hmm. The good thing about it is if you're coming out of college or you're just starting your career, just that mentality alone puts you in front of 95% of people.
Yeah.
95% of people. And it's not for everybody, right? It's not. They're just, some people don't want to work 60 hours a week to get to a certain spot, which is fine.
Fine.
It's their prerogative. My second thing would be,
Yeah, but then they're on the constant search for where they don't have to work very long. Instead of sucking it up, if they really want the time off, like we have it here. Like if you were in sales here, we've suggested that when you hit a number for the month, you're off. So somebody really could not only work remote 4 out of 5 days a week, they could literally, if they wanted to, have the last week of every month off. Think about that. Like, and so why shouldn't somebody do the work, whatever it takes, to figure out how to, be able to work smart like that, be sharp like that, so that they could get what they want? We've got all these people that'll go to like 7 different frickin' places in this world to just try to land on the spot that where they only have to work 5 hours a day, or where they have every Friday off, or where they're 100% remote. And the thing is, they don't even love it. Like, they don't even love it. They just go somewhere because of the hours. Why don't you go somewhere where you actually believe in it, love it, and figure out how to do it in less hours if the freedom and the hours are the biggest deal for you? It's a huge problem.
I see people, you walk by, this is any workplace, it's not just our company. You walk by, and it's probably rare at our company, but every once in a while you see people on their phones. And I check my phone in a day. I get messages. I'm not saying checking your phone is different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone is literally sitting there scrolling through their phone in a way where they've probably been doing it for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I was thinking about this the other day because I was talking to somebody about employees being engaged or not engaged. And I was like, if we took that person and we said, okay, you can come to Abstract for the next 40 years. We'll pay you every week. All you have to do is sit here and scroll through your phone for 8 hours a day. The whole day I want you to scroll through your phone. How fucking miserable does that sound? Nobody would want to do that.
My son would do
so
that.
Why would you hear some? No, he would. I would say no. If he
Yes,
did
he
it
would.
for 40 hours a week, I think he wouldn't.
Your
I think
son's
he would,
hardworking. Your
Yeah.
son interned here. He was very hard.
I think he would get.
Full of shit.
I think he would get to a point where I think any normal person would get to a point of, what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm going to do this for 40 more years. I'm going to scroll through my phone every day. No, like, I want to create meaning. I want to create impact. And how do we get people to realize that?
Do you think, all I can think about when you talk about scrolling through their phone is people saying, which everybody does, what? I'm multitasking. I can make dials and type in notes and scroll through my phone. I can totally do that. I'm a multitasker. You're just mad because you can't multitask. Do you think that multitasking is a thing? Do you think that somebody actually can multitask?
I think you get more out of it when you don't. Instead of counting the hours, make the hours count. Like, I love the people that may leave at 5:30, but they're literally smashing their result. Like, they just do it. They're just efficient. They don't mess around. They don't talk. They don't BS. They get it done every single day. Those are the people who are maximizing their lives. In my opinion, I don't think you can multitask and do 3 things at once. You're giving everything split attention.
Right.
You're not going to be as good at it.
Well, it's scientifically proven. I read something where they're like, even if the phone's out, it buzzes and you don't answer it. That's why I think it's important to put the phone away. But it buzzes, you're doing something, your attention for just a little bit of time goes over, looks down at the phone, goes back, right? It's taking away from your attention on a thing. Multitasking doesn't exist. It's scientifically proven. You can't do more than one thing all the way through at once. And people are doing 3 or 4 things, including scrolling through their phone, and they're not doing a good job. They're just not.
Jeff's phone's been going off this whole podcast, and I can't focus. I haven't been able to focus 1 minute.
Oh, right.
That's
sitting
why
on the table.
Scott and I were actually doing an experiment on you. You didn't even know.
Right.
Does multitasking work?
It's a prop.
I don't even think you remember the last comment you made. You should take that to the bank. Let me say this. I think there's a lot of people out there, and maybe this is a controversial statement or taboo topic, but I think that's what we address here.
Sure.
There's a lot of people out there, you know what they say? This generation doesn't work hard. This generation doesn't work hard. And I think that, I bet the listeners out there, some of you are saying it, some of you are thinking it, and some of you are going, no, I'm not thinking or saying, I know this generation doesn't work hard. And to me, like, that as a blanket statement or as a broad brush isn't fair. Like, there's plenty of people in every generation, and this one included and especially, that work plenty hard. But let me say this. For people that are business owners and entrepreneurs, like, this generation, by and large, wants different things than prior generations have. And that's statistically proven, and that's studied, and I think we're going to have a good discussion on this topic. And I think that you can go one of 2 routes. You can embrace that, or you could not embrace that. And I don't think there's any right or wrong answer. But I think middle ground's a bummer. Like, I don't think you want to be in the middle. Like, I think there are companies that are like, hey, we're gonna come to work, we're gonna work hard, this is gonna be who we are, and we're gonna go this direction. And then you got companies that are gonna go a different direction. And I think as a business, you need to, like, make that decision.
Great point. The first thing I would say when you talk about the generation not wanting to work hard, I think being a millennial myself, and then as we get into Generation Z, I think they just see through the bullshit. So if you're having them work hard, but you don't have a light at the end of the tunnel of what they're working hard for, why don't, they're not that generation. They're not going to just work to work because that's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
Show them the vision. What am I doing? Why am I working so hard?
Yes.
What am I coming in every day to do?
But that's the other thing, though. Like, that's the like, if you're going to embrace a different generation, you got to embrace the shit they care about. And I think that's the point you're making.
I think you do have to embrace it. And I think we've done an incredible job here because we had to. We wouldn't have anybody here doing the work we're doing if we didn't have paths to develop them and put such a focus on that.
I agree with both of you. I do want to say that here's where I think that generation to generation in our current time period where we're falling down. I think that every generation's been different. Every older generation has had to understand a younger generation. But what is lacking, a major difference other than maybe they see through the bullshit and maybe there's more tools and things available to help see through the bullshit or to work smarter. The older generation is afraid of telling the younger generation how they really feel today. And that's bullshit. Like, because there's shit that older generation does wrong and there's shit that the younger generation does wrong. But there are some fundamental mistakes that are being made by a younger generation right now because it could actually be easier for them to grow their career because just a lot of people are jumping and the older generation is trying to learn, but they're not holding the younger generation accountable. They're not being honest. The younger generation is not being as open to maybe what has worked in the past and what they should take from the older generation. And, you know, and the older generation, because things are just a little bit different now, and maybe they don't understand as much. There's been more of a shift in technology, and there's maybe a wider difference. So then they're automatically maybe backing up and not having the confidence to say certain things to the younger generation. Look, I've watched it now for a few years. 9 out of 10 people that stay in the same place, as long as there's enough opportunity within an organization, in a 3 to 5 year period, end up way further ahead than if they go to 3 different frickin' jobs where
100%.
they completely they have to rebuild their equity,
Sure.
relearn. Like, there's things like that where somebody should sit somebody down and say, no, you're not, jackass. Like, you're so smart. You're so valuable. You're going to go completely rebuild your equity. And then guess what? You're going somewhere where there's not a bunch of opportunity. So then you're going to have to do it again. And then you're going to have to do it again. And if you had a little bit more patience here, went through a little bit more development, in 5 years, you'd be 2.5 times further than you're going to be going to 3 or 4 other organizations. And we have to have the confidence to talk about that. And I just don't think we always do. Well, whatever, they're just going to go anyway. They're going to figure it out for themselves. And I just think that because maybe the clearest way to say it is there's more of a gap between organizations, things that people have today, things that I didn't even I didn't freaking have email. I didn't have the internet. I didn't have those things in high school and college. That's a huge difference. And so now people think there's so much of a spread that they can't, I don't know, lean into a younger generation and wake them up a little bit about certain things. Does that make sense or not?
I think it does. And also, like, I want to just pick up on the point you made about patience and quick career advancement.
Yeah.
Because that's something that, as an outsider, this business does so well. So Gen Z, people born 96 to 2010, I think is roughly the time frame. 75% feel their first position should be only a year. And 32% think it should be only 6 months. So, like, the expectation isn't patience. Like, the expectation isn't 4 years or 3 years. The expectation is a third of us want to be promoted within 6 months.
They're literally telling them that in college. I want to go smack the professors. Who,
Will
by the
Smith
way,
style?
Exactly. Will Smith style. Right. Because I'm going to run into a professor that's Chris Rock style. Doesn't even move and laughs at me. But they're being taught that. Go try a bunch of things.
It's the secret.
It's the secret.
The secret is don't do that. Like, that's the secret, because these companies, when you have an employee that's smart, they work hard, they have a good attitude, they are going to move mountains to create opportunity over the long haul.
You'll do whatever for them.
Whatever you want. If you go to a non-growth organization, that's your fault. You just went to the wrong company. If you go to a company that's growing,
that's it.
Right. Go to
Pick
a company
the right
that's
company.
growing. Yeah.
Pick the right company and stay there.
Right.
But Scott, like, what you've done in this business that you've run for a decade plus is you've created these levels that people do pass through quickly. I'll give you a quick story. So, went to this President's Club, which was amazing. And at this President's Club for Abstract, they get up and they talk about everybody's promotional path. And I'm there with my wife, who's had like one job for same title for like 6 years. And everybody who came up and they described their promotional path had 6, 7, 8 jobs. And they're just loving the next one and so energized about the next one. Like, you have done something brilliant here, creating these mini levels, these progressions, or whatever you call them, to keep people motivated. And it's playing into the motivational tendencies of this generation of people. I mean, it is true.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a team effort, right? And I do think we've listened to the younger generation. And we have younger people at all stages of management in our organization. That helps us, right? And just understanding. But God, as I'm like hearing you guys, I think the most important thing is go to the right organization that has growth and then stay there. and then do the things that other people are not willing to do. And you go so fast, you climb in a ridiculous way by just taking time to pick the right company. And then by having some patience and working hard, you will get shoved up.
And as a company, though, let me say this. As a company, you should be making sure that people know where they're going. Like, that is one thing that is jarring about the abstract culture and this 8-player structure is people know the next step and the next step and the next step, and they're preparing for it, and they're geared up for it, and they're shadowing people, and they're taking training. And there's so much attention paid. I think it's a good lesson for listeners. It was a good lesson for me. Shit, I didn't do it. We lost plenty of people who go, I left because I didn't see where my next step was or my progression. Show people where they're going. Have prescribed paths for everybody. Multiple options. Give people something to work to. It is magical.
I truly believe in if you stop learning, you start looking. So as soon as anyone in your organization feels like they're no longer developing, and whenever you have a position you're shooting for, you're always developing because you're studying, you're shadowing, you're learning the new skills of that position. As soon as you stop learning, you start looking. Now, maybe you're comfortable and maybe that lasts for a little bit of time, but inevitably something's going to come around. It's going to be shiny. It's going to give them an opportunity for growth, and they're going to take it. And I think what we've done a good job is to make sure that our people are always learning. And they're never looking. And if they are, they're looking at the position that's above them. Because why would you leave? Why would you go through the hassle of going to a new company, meeting new people, losing all the equity that you've built up, and the institutional knowledge that you have that's going to set you apart? And so we've made our living off promoting from within, and it's worked. It's had a huge impact on our success.
Yeah, absolutely. Being committed to always growing. That kind of sets the whole thing up. Our people come here because they want the opportunity. And then we've designed the entire organization with enough progression and departments where somebody can, I think the last count was there's like 30 different career paths, right? 30 different types of roles that they can play so that they can come here, work hard, be positive, and try different things. Mm-hmm. And grow their career in one spot and not have to go out and build or rebuild equity at different companies.
One point I think is important is we've talked a lot about Gen Z and age. It's also individuals who went into retail and did that for 5-6 years. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they realize they haven't built up, they didn't have vision, so they want a career where they can have vision, or they're maybe restarting. Maybe they taught for 20 years. And it's a great opportunity, regardless of your age and background, to launch a career. And I think when you pick a business, it should be one that's growing, that's going to provide you opportunity, and you should vet that up front. And then once you go to it and you're in the door, commit. It's really easy to give up. It's hard to commit. And if you do, you'll put yourself ahead of so many people. So many people.
If I'm an organization and I'm hiring, I like two different pools. One, the person that has had a little life under their belt, been there, done that, seen some things, then they'll come into your organization, realize that not everything's going to be perfect, and hey, this is a pretty great place to be. Or if you're hiring, for instance, straight out of college, you've got to hire slow and figure out if you're hiring somebody that's willing to stay somewhere for a while. Otherwise, you're retraining, right? And we are able to do that because there's all these other positions they can take. But if someone's hiring right out of school and there aren't that many different opportunities for somebody, that's going to be difficult unless you're landing on the person that is okay staying somewhere for 5 or 10 years and doing the same job.
To recap sort of the topic of this conversation, how hard should somebody work? We talked about it from a couple different angles. After we talked, something hit me. And I think it matters, are they working for today or are they working for tomorrow? And you need to find that out really quick. Which employees are working for tomorrow? They want a desirable future. They're working towards something. And then which employees are working for today? And it's okay. It's okay to have both. Not everybody has to be shooting for something. Some people just want to support their families and they want to have a job. And then double check that those people working for today don't know that you feel they're capable of working for tomorrow, because sometimes people need a fine reputation to live up to. But then in those two groups, if someone's working for tomorrow and you don't have a vision for them, they're leaving. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of when. And if they're working for today, how do you be as efficient with your time so you can leave when the bell rings and feel good about what you did and accomplished, and you're making an impact with your work? I think that's our answer.
I'm going to come from an employee perspective, and because it's hard, because it's too easy to say I'd work 12 hours and kill everyone. At a minimum, like this has to happen from everybody. At a minimum, the employees should make sure they absolutely understand what's required, activities and results, and at a minimum, they've got to work to get those done. But whatever work that takes, however hard they have to work to accomplish that is the expectation. That's what they should do. And if they do, they're never ever going to be in hot water with an organization, and they could have that job for as long as they wanted it.
And they should be, like, employees and companies should all be congruent. Like, it takes all different kinds. And so there are companies who are going to embrace people who are here for the now and not long term. And they're going to build their culture around that. They're going to build a company and processes and systems. Great. There's companies that are going to embrace enormous amounts of freelance work in the gig economy. Great. There's companies that are going to be wanting longer term folks. I mean, I think of like an enterprise rent-a-car here in St. Louis. It's like the quintessential. You're going to come up through the ranks of the entire company. We're going to promote from within almost exclusively. That's great too. But commit to who you are. Like, know who you are and be congruent. Because I think that's where I see people get into trouble, and business owners and entrepreneurs get frustrated. It's like, well, I expected people to stay for a long time. It's like, well, you didn't build a business for that. That's not what you built the business for. Like, if you want that, where's the growth? Where's the vision? Where's the mission? Where are the systems? Those are the things you got to have in place. So, like, make sure as a company you're congruent, because we're all perfectly built to be where we are, and companies are no different.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Agree. At the end of the day, every employee has a choice. They make a choice every single day when they drive into work that they're working for your organization. And every company has a choice. Do they want that employee to work for their organization? And it's important to be loyal and commit to one another and know what you're signing up for. And once you're signing up for it, you're signed up for it. Commit, I think, is what we're talking about at the end of the day. Just having more commitment in a day and age of little to no commitment can set you apart, and it can put you in a spot where you've changed the game. You're in a completely different spot than your peers because of the level of dedication and commitment that you have.
So are we suggesting that there has to be agreement? Like, the company has to completely lay out what the expectation is, and the employee has to be, accept the work, the activities and results. And then, you know what? If this person wants to do it in 5 hours a day, but they're getting it done, the company set up the expectations. They have to be okay with that.
Sure. Yeah.
The person did their job.
They did it.
Right? So what do you want out of the employee? And then, the employee accepting that, and there has to be a meet or an agreement. And that would be really how we would define it, right?
100%.
I would say it's a promise. I would go a step further. I'd say it's a promise. As an employer, here's what I promise to you. I promise I'm going to pay you on time. I promise these benefits. I promise you're going to have a place to work. You're going to have a laptop. Here are my promises to you. And as an employee, like, here are the promises that we expect in return. And, like, that is an upfront agreement. And I think the word promise is important because it's a little more personal. But, like, that's the agreement we're creating here. That's the promise we're making to each other. And it takes the employer to be really clear on what the promise they're making and the promise they're expecting. And it takes the employee to really understand the promise that they're making and the promise that they're accepting when they take a job. Like, it's expectations and it's understanding. And then you've got this alignment that you need for any successful partnership, including and especially one in which you have an employee-employer relationship.
Yeah, and to your example, Scott, if you can get the job done in 5 hours, I think if that's an employee that's working for today, that's a perfect example of pat you on the back, great job, you got the job done in 5 hours, you met it. And if it's someone working for tomorrow, that's where you separate yourself. What level can you take it to? How can you set a new standard? What can you do to help others on your team? And
And a company needs both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Didn't know that topic would go on that long. That was a good discussion. I like the back and forth. I think we all bring a couple different opinions. Let us know how you all like that. More of an open format, just discussing topics that are relevant. I know we're dealing with it. I know a lot of businesses are dealing with it right now. And at the end of the day, we care about our people and we want to do what's best for them. And knowing how to not only get the most out of your people, but allow them to get the most out of you as a company, I think is really important. And it's always going to be a topic we're going to discuss. So make sure to share this, like this, subscribe to the podcast. We're going to keep coming at you with the real topics. Anything that comes up, we're going to be transparent. We're going to tell you how it is. You may not like our answers, but we're going to tell you the truth.
Let's grow.
Let's grow.
Thanks for listening to The Grow Show. Leave us a review and let us know how we're doing, or if there's a topic you'd like us to cover in the future.
The Grow Show is sponsored by Abstract Marketing Group, whose outsourced sales and marketing services provide you with everything you need to close consistent business for less than the cost of a full-time employee. Sapper Consulting. Let us schedule your sales appointments so you don't have to. Abstract Cloud Solutions. Leveraging the power of the Salesforce platform to solve complex business problems with straightforward solutions.